We're going to talk now to Hannah White, who is the Deputy Director of the think tank, the Institute for Government. Thank you very much for talking to us, Miss White. Has Boris Johnson broken the ministerial code, which says if you knowingly mislead Parliament, then you should offer your resignation?
Well, his defence has been that this was all a mistake, that the rules that he and his government had set for the country, he didn't understand that the gatherings that he went to had broken those rules, and therefore that he didn't knowingly mislead Parliament, which is the part of the ministerial code which automatically means that you are expected to offer your resignation. But there are other parts of the ministerial code which you might think would apply in this context, including an overarching duty on ministers to comply with the law. I think the police have clearly found that that part of the code has been breached, but that part of the code doesn't have an automatic resignation attached to it. That part of the code is up to the Prime Minister to determine the consequences of a breach. So we get into a slightly circular position here.
Right. Well, he's already told us that it was a mistake. He didn't realise when he was in that cabinet room where he works normally that having some people there for his birthday for 9 minutes, as he put it, was breaking the law. And so, I mean, is that a defence when it comes to this obligation, this overarching duty on ministers to comply with the law?
Well, I don't think whether what he thought about the gatherings is relevant to that part of the code. That part of the code is quite clear. It's if you're required to comply with the law. If you are found to have broken the law, you cannot have been consistent with that part of the code.
Right, but as you say, it would then be up to him to decide whether he should resign for that.
Yes, exactly.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think it puts us in a very difficult situation. If the Prime Minister's decision is that this is an offence which is not something that ministers should have to resign for, if it is now henceforth the precedent that if you break the law as a minister, you don't automatically have to resign, that's, I think, quite a difficult precedent to have been set.
But it has been set, and not just by the Prime Minister, but also by the Chancellor. What do you think of his decision to stay in his job?
Well, I think in all these situations, what it ultimately comes down to is politics. It's a political calculation on the part of the Prime Minister and on the part of the Chancellor, whether their hand is going to be forced and what the consequences are going to be for them and for their party if they remain in post. And that's also the calculation that Conservative MPs are having to make. They're watching very carefully, I think, to see what the public reaction is. They're hoping that that the anger around this has dissipated, and they're trying to make that calculation. And the question will be, as matters evolve, as the Met continue their investigations, there are a number of other parties that they haven't yet made determinations about. There may be further fines. And then there is the Sue Gray report, which I think will be quite important when it comes to the calculations of Conservative MPs, because it will provide context. It will provide potentially evidence of things like emails that the Prime Minister may or may not have seen talking about whether parties should go ahead. And at that point, maybe MPs will have more information at hand to decide, is it plausible when the Prime Minister says that he really just didn't realise that these things were outside the rules.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you for talking to us. Hannah White from the Institute for Government.